Alright, this is going to sound unbelievable, but I swear it's true. I'm not usually one to share personal stuff online, but I'm honestly at that point where I need people to see what actually goes on in families like mine. Maybe it's just venting. Maybe I want someone to say I'm not crazy for being this angry. I don't know. I'll just put it out there. I'm 28 and just came back after being away for almost 2 years. It wasn't anything too serious, just a situation that got way out of hand at the wrong place and wrong time. I ended up taking the blame because my dad's always been the pillar of the community type, and I'm basically the family disappointment. I always thought coming home would be strange, but I never expected this. I didn't have anyone picking me up. Wasn't a surprise. My mom stopped writing like a year ago, which was honestly the biggest hint that something was off. I still had the house address burned into muscle memory, so I figured I'd just walk it. Like 10 miles, not the end of the world, even if I looked like a zombie by the time I got there. I looked like absolute garbage, wearing what they gave me, carrying my little clear bag, absolutely zero dignity. People stare when a guy looks like he just crawled out of a ditch, but whatever. But I had one pair of earbuds left that still worked, so I just spammed old playlists and tuned out. But the weird thing walking up my old street, I noticed the house looked different. Not like it had been trashed or anything, but the front yard was too neat. Like someone had actually trimmed the hedges. There were new curtains in the living room window. Mom never cared about that sort of thing, and my dad sure as hell didn't. There was a car in the driveway that I didn't recognize. Not even a nice car, just some old sedan. But still, whole vibe just felt off. Like someone else lived there now. I guess I should have been ready for it, but I wasn't. I fiddled with my keys, the same ones I'd had since high school, and tried the door. The deadbolt stopped me cold. I could hear voices inside. Like actual laughter, but not my mom's, definitely not my dad's. Just voices. I knocked once, then realized there was something taped to the glass. It was this ugly neon sticky note, and I could tell my dad wrote it because he always does all caps like he thinks it makes him sound more serious. It said, and I quote, "We stay gone. We replaced you with a real son, yeah." For real? Who does that? I was just standing there feeling like the most foolish person on earth. The voices inside got louder, like they were purposely ignoring me. I knocked again, harder, and that's when I heard someone say, "Just leave it. Don't answer." That was definitely my dad. I don't think I've ever felt more rage in my life. It wasn't even sadness, just this cold, "Are you seriously doing this?" kind of anger. I could hear someone else laughing, a guy's laugh, but not anyone I knew. I didn't even want to see their faces at that point. I took out my phone, yeah, an old phone, so it's like a brick, and called the house. Didn't even know if they kept the number, but whatever. After 2 rings, my dad picked up. He didn't say hello, just went, "What do you want?" Like I hadn't existed for years. Told him it was me. There was this silence. Then he just said, "You're a disgrace. You're dead to us. Don't ever show your face again." Then he hung up. No hesitation. No, "I'm sorry," nothing. I just kind of stood there. I guess I expected it, but not like that. He sounded like he wanted to spit in my face. I could feel my fist clenching without even thinking about it. I wanted to break the damn window. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just looked at that stupid note again, and I started laughing. Not because it was funny, but because it was so pathetic. Like, who replaces their own kid and puts it in writing? I stepped back, looked around, and realized the neighbor across the street was watching me from behind her blinds. Classic. Then I heard a thud inside, like someone shoved a chair or something. The laughter stopped. I could hear my mom saying something, but I couldn't make it out. I just stood there for another minute, not sure what I was even doing. Then I pulled out my old keychain and took off my house key. But that wasn't all I left. See, before I went away, I'd set up a bunch of their stuff online. Bills, accounts, smart home technology. I knew all the passwords. I was the family tech guy. I also knew where my dad kept his emergency money that my mom didn't know about, and his gambling receipts, and the loan papers he'd hidden in the attic. I'd printed out a list of everything months ago just in case. Account numbers, passwords, a breakdown of every lie he'd told my mom about money. I'd been carrying it in my wallet like insurance. I left the key on top of that note, but I also left an envelope tucked behind the door handle. Inside was everything. Every secret, every hidden account, every receipt that proved what kind of man my father really was. At the bottom, I wrote, "Hope your real son can handle all this. Your disappointment of a son." Then I walked away. A couple blocks away, I checked my phone and had like 3 missed calls from a number I didn't know. I guess word travels fast in this neighborhood. Then I got a text from Marco, this guy I kind of grew up with. Not really a close friend, but the only guy who never treated me like total trash when I messed up. He said, "Yo, saw you outside. You good?" I texted back, "Depends what you mean by good. I'm not dead, but that's about it." He sent back a skull emoji and told me if I needed a place to crash, let him know. I said I'd figure something out. Later that night, Marco filled me in on what I'd missed. Turns out my replacement was this kid named Armando, son of some family friends who moved out of state, and left him behind. My dad stepped in, total look at me being a hero type. Marco said my dad had been telling everyone that I was gone for good, and Armando was like the new golden boy. He tells people Armando's respectful, helps around the house, never causes drama, doesn't embarrass the family. Classic. My dad always cared more about what the neighbors thought than anything his actual kid was doing. But then weird stuff started happening. First, Marco told me he saw Armando standing in the doorway the next day, holding the router, looking like he was about to cry. My dad was out front yelling at him, not even trying to keep his voice down. Classic, you can't even do this one thing, right? Energy. See, I'd set up all their tech stuff before I went away. Wi-Fi, smart home devices, online bill pay. When I left that envelope, I also changed all the passwords and took my name off the accounts. Nothing illegal. I literally set it all up and paid for it. But suddenly, they couldn't get online. Couldn't pay bills, couldn't figure out how anything worked. The smart thermostat stopped working. The security system went offline. Even the streaming services got cut off because the payments bounced. My dad had always been too proud to learn how any of it worked. He'd just bark orders and expect me to handle the technical stuff. Now his real son was supposed to figure it out, but Armando had no clue about any of it. The water got shut off for half a day because the autopay stopped working. Armando tried to fix it, but ended up calling my Aunt Vera in a panic. Vera called my dad, and they got into it on the phone. She told him she knew everything now and wasn't going to cover for him anymore. My dad hung up on her. Here's the thing about modern life, everything's connected. When I removed my access and changed the passwords, it created a domino effect. Their internet went down because the bill didn't get paid automatically. Without internet, the smart TV stopped working. The home security system went offline. Even their doorbell camera stopped recording. My dad tried calling the internet company, but he didn't know the account details. He tried calling the bank about the autopay, but he'd never set up online banking himself. I'd done all that. Every customer service rep asked for information he didn't have. Account numbers, security questions, verification codes sent to email addresses he couldn't access. For a man who prided himself on being in control, suddenly he couldn't control anything in his own house. Armando spent hours on the phone with various companies, trying to prove he lived there and had permission to make changes. But without the right documentation, most places wouldn't help him. The cable company wanted to speak to the account holder, me. The electric company needed verification that I'd authorized the changes. The bank required multiple forms of ID and proof of residence. My dad's perfect, organized life became a bureaucratic nightmare overnight. I crashed at Marco's that night. Woke up to 4 unread texts from numbers I didn't have saved, all basically saying, "Don't come back," or just dead air. Not even my mom's number. Just silence. But then weird shit started happening. First, Marco told me he saw Armando standing in the doorway the next day, holding the router, looking like he was about to cry. My dad was out front yelling at him, not even trying to keep his voice down. Classic, you can't even do this one thing, right? Energy. See, I'd set up all their tech shit before I went away. Wi-Fi, smart home stuff, online bill, payday. When I left that envelope, I also changed all the passwords and took my name off the accounts. Nothing illegal. I literally set it all up and paid for it. But suddenly they couldn't get online, couldn't pay bills, couldn't figure out how anything worked. Then the water got shut off for half a day because the autopay stopped working. Armando tried to fix it but ended up calling my Aunt Vera in a panic. Vera called my dad and they got into it on the phone. She told him she knew everything now and wasn't going to cover for him anymore. My dad hung up on her. The real fun started when my mom found that envelope. Vera called me to check in, and I told her straight up that I wasn't sorry for any of it. She said she didn't blame me. According to Marco, my mom completely lost it when she read what was inside. She slapped my dad in the face, first time ever, and locked herself in the bedroom. The envelope had copies of bank statements showing the secret accounts, receipts from his gambling, loan papers he'd hidden from her, cash withdrawal records, a list of every online account I'd set up, with passwords changed. My dad tried to talk to Armando, but Armando just walked out and slammed the door. The family group chat exploded. People started picking sides, and for once, it wasn't just me getting trashed. That's when the real begging started. My dad started blowing up my phone. Not just him, my mom too. Calls, voicemails, long texts. Stuff like, "Please, we made a mistake. Can we talk? We need you." Full paragraphs about how they're sorry. They acted out of fear. They didn't know what else to do. Even Armando messaged me, apologizing for his part and saying he never wanted to take my place. I didn't answer any of them. Not out of spite, just because I don't owe them anything at this point. My dad actually showed up at Marco's, tried to push his way inside. Marco literally shoved him back out and told him to leave. My dad tried to yell about family, about loyalty. Marco just laughed and closed the door in his face. Word got out fast. I started getting random calls from numbers I didn't know, people from the neighborhood, asking what was going on. Mrs. B. Lewis across the street, who used to give me Halloween candy when I was a kid, called asking if everything was okay over there. I just told her I didn't live there anymore, and she seemed surprised. It's funny how fast people notice when stuff isn't picture perfect at Dad's house anymore. The lawn started looking like shit. Trash bags piled up by the side. Curtains all crooked. My dad's car parked crooked in the driveway like he just gave up halfway through. He never used to let anything look messy. Not even the mailbox. Ew. My Aunt Vera became my secret weapon. She'd always been the only one in the family who called out my dad's bullshit. When I told her everything that happened, she was pissed. Not at me, but at him. She started telling everyone in the extended family about the money stuff, the way my dad tried to erase me, the real son note on the door. Nobody was pretending anymore. My dad tried to borrow money from Vera again. She said no. He got pissed and started yelling at her, so she hung up. Then he told her she was choosing sides. She literally laughed and hung up, then texted me. Your dad's panicking. You broke him. It felt good to hear it. I started walking by the house every few days, just to see the damage. Each time, it looked worse. The tech stuff stayed broken because nobody could figure out how to fix it. Armando needed Wi-Fi for school, but it had been down for days. He actually messaged me on Instagram asking if there was a way to fix it. I left him on read. Yeah. Marco kept me updated on the drama. He said there were full-on screaming matches happening. My dad yelling about money, Armando yelling back that he wasn't a tech guy, my mom crying. One night, Marco said he heard a door slam so hard the windows rattled. He almost called the cops, but didn't want to get involved. I wish I could have seen it. Here's the thing people don't understand about my dad. He's always been obsessed with control and appearances. He wanted the perfect family photo for the neighbors, but he never wanted to do the actual work. I knew exactly where he kept all his secrets because I'm the one who helped him hide them in the first place. Before I went away, he'd have me set up accounts, move money around, handle the tech stuff. He was too proud to learn himself. The rainy day money he'd been hiding from my mom. Almost gone. The property taxes he was behind on? About to catch up with him. The gambling debts? Still piling up. I didn't have to do anything dramatic. I just stopped covering for him. Stopped fixing his messes. Stopped being the one who kept their whole life running. Turns out, when you remove the person who was holding everything together, shit falls apart fast. The best part? Armando couldn't handle it. This kid who was supposed to be the real son, the perfect replacement, he lasted about 2 weeks once things got real. Marco told me he saw Armando loading boxes into a car one morning. When my dad came outside to stop him, Armando just shook his head and kept packing. My dad stood there in his bathrobe, yelling about commitment and family loyalty. Armando got in the car and drove away without looking back. So much for the golden boy. My mom kept trying to text me. First time in over a year. She'd send stuff like, "Can we talk? And you're still our child." I ignored most of it. Not out of spite, but because I don't feel like being the emotional punching bag anymore. I'm not here to fix their mess. But according to Vera, my mom was barely talking to my dad anymore. She found out about all the money he'd hidden, all the lies he'd told, all the debts he'd racked up while playing the perfect husband and father. She slapped that kitchen table so hard one night that it made Armando jump. This was before he bailed. My dad slammed the back door and stormed out. They don't really fight about people, just about who gets to be right. But the foundation was cracking. The family group chat became a war zone. Half the relatives were on my dad's side initially, saying I should just move on and forgive. The other half started asking questions about why a grown man would put a note like that on his door. When Vera started sharing details about the hidden money and the gambling, more people switched sides. Suddenly my dad wasn't the victim anymore. My cousin Joan, who used to hang with my dad at card games, called me and straight up asked if I was coming to the family get-together next week. I said, nah. I didn't get an invite. He was quiet for a minute, then just said, "Sorry, man. I heard things are rough. Word was getting out. Remember how I mentioned my dad was behind on property taxes? Well, I may have made an anonymous tip to make sure that Bill caught up with him. Nothing illegal, just making sure the right people knew the right information at the right time. When that bill came due and the automatic payment didn't work, because I'd removed my card from the account, shit got real fast. My dad had to scramble to find the money, but his secret accounts were almost empty, and my mom had frozen the joint account after finding out about his lie. He tried calling Vera again for a loan. She laughed and hung up. He tried calling other relatives. Word had already spread about what kind of man he really was. Nobody wanted to help the guy who threw away his own son and put it in writing. About 3 weeks after I left that envelope, my dad tracked me down at Marco's place again. But this time was different. He looked like shit. Unshaven, clothes wrinkled, that perfect appearance completely gone. He wasn't angry anymore. He was desperate. "We need to talk," he said through the door. Marco looked at me. I nodded. My dad sat on Marco's couch and just started talking. About how he was sorry, how he made a mistake, how the family was falling apart without me. He tried to explain the Armando situation, said it wasn't about replacing me, just about having help around the house. Said the note was written in anger and he didn't mean it. I just listened. When he was done, I asked him one question. If you needed me so bad, why did you make it impossible for me to come home? He didn't have an answer. I told him I wasn't interested in fixing their problems anymore. That he'd made his choice when he put that note on the door, and now he had to live with it. He started crying. Actually crying. Said he didn't know how to manage everything without me, that the house was falling apart, that my mom wasn't speaking to him. I stood up and walked him to the door. Should have thought of that before you got yourself a real son, I said, and closed the door. It's been about 2 months now since I got out. The house looks like absolute shit. The lawn is overgrown, there are bags of trash everywhere, and half the neighbors have complained to the city about the property maintenance. My dad's perfect reputation in the neighborhood? Gone. One. People cross the street when they see him coming. My mom finally left him last week. Vera told me she's staying with family out of state, trying to figure out her next move. She sent me one text, I'm sorry for everything. I should have protected you. I didn't respond, but I didn't block her either. My dad's still in that house, alone, trying to figure out how to work the TV remote without me there to help him. The Wi-Fi's still down. The bills are piling up. And he has no idea how to fix any of it because he spent years just barking orders instead of learning how to do anything himself. Armando's moved back with his real family in another state. Smart kid. People keep asking if I feel guilty. If I think I went too far. If I'm planning to forgive and move on. Here's the thing, I don't feel guilty at all. My dad wanted to erase me and replace me with someone better. He wanted the perfect family photo without having to do the work of being a decent father. He wanted all the benefits of having a son without any of the responsibility that comes with it. So I showed him what it's like to lose the person who was actually holding his life together. I didn't break any laws. I didn't destroy anything that wasn't mine to begin with. I just stopped enabling his bullshit and let the natural consequences catch up with him. The real son couldn't handle real problems. The perfect family image crumbled when it wasn't being propped up by someone who actually cared enough to maintain it. And my dad? He's learning that you can't just throw people away and expect them to keep fixing your messes from a distance. My phone still buzzes with messages from him. Long paragraphs about regret, about family, about how he's changed. How he's learned his lesson and just wants his son back. But here's what he doesn't understand. I'm not his son anymore. I haven't been for a long time. He made that clear when he put that note on the door. When he told his neighbors he'd upgraded to a better model. When he hung up on me without a second thought. What? You don't get to throw someone away and then ask for them back when your replacement doesn't work out. Some bridges, once burned, don't get rebuilt. Some things once broken, don't get fixed. And sometimes, the best thing you can do is walk away and let people learn what they lost. I'm not posting this looking for sympathy or advice on whether I should forgive him. I'm not trying to be the bigger person or heal generational trauma or whatever. I'm posting this because I want people to know that sometimes families are just toxic, and sometimes the best thing you can do is let them deal with the consequences of their own actions. My dad wanted a real son. Well, he found out what happens when the fake son stops pretending to care. He wanted me gone? Cool. Now he gets to see what his life looks like without me in it. And, honestly, I'm sleeping better than I have in years. Marco's been a real friend through all this. I've got a job lined up, a place to stay, and a future that doesn't involve fixing other people's messes. My dad can keep his perfect house, what's left of it, his perfect reputation, ditto, and his perfect family, population, 1DT. I'm done being disposable. I'm done being the scapegoat. I'm done being the family tech support and emotional dumping ground and financial safety net. If you're reading this and you're in a similar situation, sometimes the answer isn't forgiveness. Sometimes it's just walking away and letting people figure out how much they actually needed you. They'll figure it out eventually. And by then, you'll be long gone, building something better. A lot of people are asking if I'll ever reconcile with my mom. Honestly, maybe. She was trapped in that situation too, and it sounds like she's finally breaking free. But that's a conversation for another day, when I'm ready for it. For those asking what was in the envelope, I've covered most of it in the post. But basically, it was a complete breakdown of every financial secret my dad had been keeping, every account I'd set up for them, and every password they'd need to actually run their own lives. I figured if they wanted to replace me, they should probably know how to do the job I'd been doing for free. No, I'm not worried about legal consequences. Everything I did was either perfectly legal or involved account services that I had legitimately set up and paid for. Changing your own passwords isn't a crime, and providing accurate information about joint finances to family members isn't illegal either. My dad's just mad that his house of cards fell down when I stopped holding it up. Thanks for reading, Reddit. Sometimes the trash takes itself out, and sometimes you have to show it where the curb is. For those asking about current status, it's been 6 months now. My dad finally sold the house and moved into a small apartment. The financial mess caught up with him completely. My mom filed for divorce and is doing much better living with my Aunt Vera. She started reaching out occasionally, and we're taking it slow, but there might be hope there. Armando went back to his real family, and is doing well in college now. We actually connected on social media recently. No hard feelings between us. He was just a kid trying to survive a bad situation, same as I was. As for my dad, last I heard he's working at a hardware store and learning how to manage his smartphone. Apparently he had to take a computer literacy class at the local community college because he couldn't figure out basic technology without me. The irony isn't lost on me. I've got my own place now, a steady job, and I'm building relationships with the family members who actually matter. Some bridges can't be rebuilt, but some don't need to be. Life's good when you stop letting other people treat you as disposable.